Hey there, my name is Jason Bradley. You may recognize my voice from such places as the Community Solutions Podcast, which, by the way, you're listening to now. Before we begin, can I bend your ear for just a moment? We want to bring you the very best in quality and information each week. You can help us achieve that level of greatness. If you sell something, want to announce something, or try to convince others to vote for you, consider advertising on the Community Solutions Podcast. You can email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com, and we'd love to help you tell everyone about what you do. Once again, that's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. Let us be your solution to increase sales. We thank you ahead of time for your consideration. Okay, enough yammering. On with the show. We want to reach out and touch the flame where the streets have no name. And no, that is not a reference to complete streets, Hennepin County. Leave your hands off. This is the Community Solutions Podcast, here with a late night edition. Man, we've been touring the state. We've been in whirlwind all over the place. I tell you what, it feels good to sit in a chair for a little bit and have a conversation. With me, I am Jason Bradley, is my partner in crime, Andrew Richter.
Well, it's great to be back yet again for another episode. I mean, we just keep on. We're going to send all these to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something at some point.
Right.
There'll be a place somewhere where you can access them all forever.
Yes, that's true. We plan to have a vast library for you to peruse.
Archives.
Yes, archives. It'll be good. It'll be grand. Wow.
You can tell we're a little bushed today, but that's okay.
It is
a good tired.
It is a good tired. You know, sometimes we're tired because we've been up reading a budget till 2 a.m. and we want to drink Drano or something to make it end. But not tonight. Tonight, it's a little more of a celebratory tired because we've been out meeting with people, we've been talking with people, we've been sharing our story, telling our message, and it is resonating, and that's exciting to hear, is that people are getting it. And you know, when you go somewhere, and sometimes you go and how many people have heard of us, and nobody's hand goes up. Other times it's half. Other times it's like, oh yeah. I think we got called local heroes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I accept that.
Nobody's
but that's,
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll accept it on our behalf.
It'll be like the Grammys. You can accept it on my behalf. That'll be fine. So we want to get into a conversation tonight about counties.
Boy, that's exciting.
Oh, we haven't talked a lot about counties, and so it's overdue because they are nonpartisan offices, and it is part of what our mission is to look at nonpartisan offices and be able to put people in office with common sense approach to governing.
And I would say counties are a very, very powerful position to hold. I mean, most county commissions in Minnesota, there's 87 counties.
Yes.
County commissioner is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not a part-time, 10-hour-a-week, if that thing.
Right.
County commissioner is what you are. So it's not, unlike a lot of the positions we talk about, whether that's school board, whether it's city, whether it's serving an appointed position.
Yeah.
This is a full-time gig.
At least in the metro. There are some outstate ones maybe that are more part-time.
There may be.
But even as far out as like St. Cloud, I know they're full-time gigs. Pay varies widely.
Yeah. Pay varies very widely. If you're in the metro, chances are you're forking out a lot of money in salary. But, you know, like you said, that does vary. For the most part, it's a full-time. It's definitely not a a 5-hour-a-week get-your-packet job.
Right.
It's not that anywhere. Maybe that's more what I meant to say. But county government is a very, very powerful thing. If you look at the 87 counties, they spend very, very close to what the state spends in a year.
Right.
I mean, they spend a lot of money.
They do.
And they have a lot of responsibility. And what Jay and I are going to do in this show is kind of what we did. If you listen to our Townships program a few weeks ago, where we sort of gave you a view from 10,000 feet without getting into minutia, which we'll do in a later podcast, especially when all the budgetary information comes out and the preliminary levies are passed. I'm sure we'll delve into that more. But what we really want to talk about is what does a county do? I mean, what does a county commissioner do? Where do your tax dollars go?
Right.
And it varies very wildly throughout the state. I mean, you'd think there's some reasons for that, but you'd think it would be similar, and it really isn't.
No.
It really does vary a lot. And counties are subject to the same budgetary rules that cities are.
Yes, they are.
You know, it's September right now. They're doing their budget stuff just like the city is. You know, when we talked about that a while back,
yeah,
it was about how they pass a preliminary levy, then they finalize it in December. Well, your county does the same thing for the operating expenses. And so that's but you know, counties spend a lot of money, and you're looking at 5 people, 7 people, again, with no checks and balances, no executive branch, no legislative branch, no nothing like that. Really do control the lot. And counties have, in Minnesota anyway, and it's not like this everywhere, have certain mandates from the state of Minnesota that they have to comply with.
Yeah.
Some of them are funded. Some of them are, quite frankly, not that well funded, even though my definition of funding them 100% might be a little different. They do a lot of the dirty work, I think, that goes overlooked locally.
Right.
I mean, you know, counties, the biggest expenses that we normally run into with the county are public safety.
Yeah.
Now, that's the sheriff's office and all the divisions that go along with that, and that's different everywhere. You know, Hennepin County, for example, has a very large sheriff's office. They have a lot of buildings. They have, you know, so on and so forth. Health and Human Services, which wildly varies. Now, that covers everything. That covers MNsure. I'm talking about child support, 911. That might be under public safety. Mental health, county hospitals, you name it. Health and Human Services. I know in Hennepin County, that's the biggest expense. It's not like that statewide, you know, because it varies because of the needs of Health and Human Services. There's more people on MNsure in Hennepin County than there is in some county way up north. So the disparity, there the sheriff's office might be the largest expense.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, because a lot of the times when you have a lot of townships and you have the sheriff as the law,
they don't have the local police force either. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And you know, they have a large public works. They spend, you know, money on their business operations. I mean, that you're talking about all the employees who administer that. They administer district courts. District county courthouses. You know, they do a lot of things that I think go unnoticed by, or who people know they exist but don't know that the county is the one footing the bill for it.
Right.
So, county roads, another big one.
That is a big one.
Yeah, and all the intricacies that go in with that. I mean, we all know that roads is not just county roads.
Right.
Just the same as the cities or anywhere else. You're talking at least in Hennepin County, they have a relationship with the Park District. In fact, they appoint 2 of the members. They have sort of their hands in pretty much anything that is not a municipal street,
right?
Which your state might have a stake in, and so counties are a big deal. They're very overlooked. They have bonding authority. They are responsible for assessing home values. They're responsible for tax collection. When you pay the property taxes, or if you escrow and you don't directly pay it, the county is the one that does all the administering. They're the ones who siphon the money to feed it where it's supposed to go. That's also a statewide mandate. It's state law that they do that. So the counties have a very large job. I'm not sure their priorities are always in line with what they should be doing, but
right,
and they also, I should mention this too, real quick. They have special taxing authorities.
Yeah,
this would be a revenue side, but Minnesota state law does permit them to enact a transit tax. I'm not just talking about the metro either.
Right.
Lake County has a transit tax. Olmsted County does. Cook County does, way up in northern Minnesota, a transit sales and use tax. So does Pine County. So does Mille Lacs County. Fergus Falls, actually, I should say Fergus Falls. That would be, what would that be? Becker County?
Yeah.
Has ended theirs. So there's a ray of hope. That I believe it's up to 0.5%, and of course the ones in the metro are Anoka and Dakota County are at a 0.25. They're at half that. So they do have special taxing authority.
Yeah.
That is up to them. They have a wheelage tax authority.
Yeah.
That's a tax paid on your tabs. Hennepin County passed that several years ago, which is another thing that they supposedly use on roads, but we all know it goes into transportation, so that's kind of a big bucket there that that may go in. So
they might also manage some of the rail lines that aren't privately held within a county as well.
And they also have the option to have that as a separate levy. They have a railroad authority option as well as an HRA, kind of like an EDA in a city. Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which is a separate levy from the big levy. Hennepin County has all 3.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to get a handle on what they're spending sometimes. And because with their capital improvements they can use bonding. So again, the debt service is on the budget, but the cost to build that $20 million building is not sitting on the budget. So you have the same dynamic you have in a city,
right,
with a comprehensive annual financial report. So that's kind of just a quick. A good example of what counties do. MNsure, for example, is a state law.
Yeah, it's
a state-run exchange. We aren't on the federal exchange. We're on a state exchange. And Hennepin County does get money from the state of Minnesota. That is, I'd say maybe 15% of their operating budget comes from the state. They do get federal money as well, but with that comes the mandates, and one of the mandates with MNsure is they're the ones who do all the paperwork. They're the ones who administer who figures out what, and there is a Department of Health at the state. They kick a lot of that down to the county to fill out that paperwork and get so and so going. The employees are county paid, so it's a intricacy that is difficult to put your finger on the situation, because you've got a state mandate with some state money going to a county with some county money, and it's very hard to discern from that what your tax dollars are doing.
Right. Yeah, and also, you look at the intricacies within the whole MNsure deal, and you've got you've got all these different companies you're managing for people within the exchange, but then you also have medical assistance, you have Medicaid, Minnesota Care, right?
S-chip, that S-chip is a federal one that is very similar to Medicaid or Minnesota Care. In fact, quite frankly, I don't understand the difference between all of them. To me, they're all aimed at the same demographic of people. Mm-hmm. Low-income people who don't have health insurance. That's who we're talking about.
Right.
And you've got MNsure, Minnesota Care, Medicaid, and S-chip all kind of going, two being run by the state, two being run by the feds.
Right.
And you have, it's a screwed up system there that they have, which isn't the county's fault. But
they didn't hire very good project managers for their website or business analysts
I can fault them for that.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the counties tend to stick their nose into places where they don't belong a lot of times too. I mean, look at Hennepin County with deciding you can't light up inside of a building in this county. You can't smoke on county property. You can't have e-cigs, in these designated areas.
Yeah. Hennepin County, you remember, beat the state to the punch on that with the Clean Indoor Air Act, which was after Hennepin County had already acted. And the e-cig, the flavored cigarettes, they have come out and they've banned everything. Can't smoke in a park.
Yeah, that's crazy, And I know we've said it before, but
the parks aren't run by the county. That's the strange part.
That is.
Why is the county telling a city that they can't? Their parks have to be smoke free.
Exactly,
it's not up to them.
No, but and I know that we've said it before. Our friend, and I put that in air quotes, Mike Opat of District 1 here in Hennepin County, when he said that your freedoms to do stupid things ends when you step foot on our property. I mean, it just shows the mindset that some of these county people have.
Well, and also, I would say it's not Mike Opat's job to do that. He is a servant of the public, meaning he doesn't own property.
No.
The county doesn't own property. They own it in the name of the people.
Right.
So, for my constitutional rights to end at just because I happen to walk on property that I'm paying for is the exact opposite thinking of how it should be. I mean, you're on somebody else's private property. There's a difference. If I'm on property that the public owns, the Constitution doesn't say that it doesn't apply there.
Yeah.
Like, the Constitution doesn't apply because I'm on county property.
Right.
That's a justification to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, he can ban breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, there's it's a slippery slope that people like him have gone down, and Opat's certainly not the only one. He's certainly not the only one here in the metro, but you look at everything that Hennepin County has its nose in from, you could make an argument that a county hospital is not a necessary county function.
Right.
I mean, HCMC, and a lot of big counties have hospitals.
Yes, they do.
Certainly Hennepin County's not an exception to that, but, a county hospital.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know why you need that, and especially when there's a lot of private hospitals around. I mean, especially in the Twin Cities. I mean, you've got your Alina hospitals and
Fairview and North Memorial, and so you wonder if operating a hospital is something that is needed. I mean, I get a kick out of how much they spend on libraries, and I get criticized for this sometimes because Brooklyn Park, we just blew $20 million on a new library. Well, most kids, they're never going to read a book in their life. They're going to have everything online.
Yeah.
Nobody goes and uses microfiche or reads the newspaper anymore.
Right.
That's our generation may still do that, but your kids' generation and my nieces and nephews, they don't do that stuff. You probably don't either. I do, but that's because I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah.
But, spending that kind of money on a library when books, as much as I wish people read them, because I think there's something about sitting around reading the paper, there's something about reading a book. My eyes get bad when I look at a computer all the time. But young people, that's not where we're heading. Sorry, but it just isn't.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, as far as books go, I like to hold a book in my hand, turn the pages, see how much, what do I have left in this chapter? Am I getting close? That kind of stuff, it's...
But, the reality is that technology, especially in book sales, has broken the barrier in a lot of ways. You could buy books for half of what it costs to buy an actual book and get it downloaded in a PDF form. Yeah. It's very different now than it was. And I personally just don't like enjoying reading on a laptop. That's just me. But, if you're 18 years old and you've grown up through this culture, you're going to have a very different view than somebody our age. So, but again, libraries is something, every county has them, whether, it's a good expense or not for them is it's going to be there. I should say, too, a few things on the revenue end. Property taxes is typically the largest source of revenue. Right. They do have services for fees, fines, forfeitures. They all count that as revenue. Yes. Which is a little
anything coming in.
A little bit crazy. Same thing with license and permits. And then the other two real big things are state and federal money, and they do get both. State in particular, but they do get federal money, whether that's for light rail, whether that is for mixing in with county roads, the way, they all mix in that way. There's a lot more federal money than you think flowing into county government. In fact, I'll just throw a little tidbit out here. 2017 in Hennepin County. Now, again, Hennepin County, not necessarily a microcosm of the state, because that is the largest county, probably the most diverse county. Right. Gets, in their 2017, but $200 million from the federal government.
What? Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? Yeah. $200 million. Wow. So, and then I'm sure with the feds, and it may be law enforcement related, but there is I'm sure there's a whole list of mandates and things that there has to be that comes with that. So, but they are they're not dependent on their levies like a city is. Cities derive a lot higher percentage of their money from a levy. Yeah. Especially states that don't get LGA. But every county gets state aid because of the mandates. Right. So it's not quite the same as a city. But so, that's where your money is coming from. I mean, you've got property tax levy, you've got and then there's also local taxes, and that is the sales taxes and things that they're by state statute have the ability to add on to the sales tax. I mean, in Hennepin County, we're up to 7.5%, 7.3, something
right about
like
there.
that.
Yeah,
and that's much lower than the state rate. Well, not much lower. I think the state rate's 6.8, but Hennepin County has maxed their max tax under the state law.
Oh, of course they have.
Do you expect anything less? I mean, and the wheelage tax, another great example. I mean, wheelage tax, but that was another thing that you could argue for local control. Right. That the legislature a few years back decided that it had been against state law to do this. They said, all right, we'll leave it up to the counties. And Hennepin County was one of the first to enact a $10 wheelage tax that you pay every year on your tabs. Right. And you pay that regardless. That is a flat fee. You can have an old car, 20 years old, and you are paying as much as a semi-truck. So it doesn't work like your regular pull tabs. Pull tabs. Forget what I said. I'm delusional right now.
No, your car tabs. Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Late night. Disclaimer. All right. No, and that's. I mean, there's so many different taxes. I mean, just look at the city level. I mean, you look and they're able to do bonding and TIF and property taxes and fees and this and that. I mean, the county has all that kind of stuff at their disposal too, and even more when you think about those kinds of things like the. Like your tabs and the wheelage tax, and they have fees, they have services, obviously that they provide.
And you add to it, take something like the Twin Stadium tax. Hennepin County has paid their portion of what they agreed to pay. Guess what? They're still collecting the tax.
Right.
The tax hasn't gone away just because their portion of the stadium is paid for.
Right.
They started paying it in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been paying it for 11 years, but because they took the money, they took the revenue stream.
Right.
Because remember, a special law was created to allow Hennepin County to do this. Yeah. Technically, what they did was violate state law. And because it says you should have had a referendum on this.
Yeah.
So that tax, of course, is treated as permanent revenue.
Yeah.
So that's how they're treating it.
It's never going to go away.
So wherever they want to siphon it, they can do it.
Could be trolley cars. Could be light rail. It could be bike lanes. Think of the future. It's amazing. Oh.
And they also are part of a lot of the clubs that we talk about.
Oh yeah.
Hennepin County is a member of ICLEI.
Yeah.
Complete Streets, Cool Counties. They're members of course, the members of the Minnesota Counties Association group. So they join the clubs and they do a lot of the same things on a county level, whether that's putting up solar panels or whatever that you may see on the city level as well.
Yeah. So
the clubs are everywhere.
Well, and they have, they take things like active living, which is a code word, that they use all over the place. And
basically, you're too fat.
Right. And so they...
At the same time, they approve McDonald's in the neighborhood and Burger King in the neighborhood.
Right. But, I mean, they take things like this. Cool Counties, which is another club, which has to deal with, your cap and trade stuff.
Bringing the CO2 level down or something like that. Greenhouse gases, whatever they are. Back down to something to do with the year 2050. I don't remember exactly, but... in fact, if you look at Hennepin County's website, you'll find pictures of bikers and all that kind of crap. Mm-hmm. Pretty much everywhere. But they also deal with regional government. Mm-hmm. As much as Hennepin County works hand in hand with the Met Council, we find also throughout the state, whether it is... the people in Duluth working with the Arrowhead RDO, or whether it is Bemidji working with the Bemidji RDO, or whether it is Roseau working with the Northwest RDO, and so on and so forth, all the way throughout the state. I think that a lot of these mandates that get passed down from the county onto the cities, where it's like, this is what we expect of you, the high density affordable housing, the complete streets, the mixed-use development, all of that stuff gets handed down, especially in greater Minnesota, through the counties because of their affiliation with the regional development organizations. Right, and I would add to it that you have to remember too, in greater Minnesota they have so much more power because local government is so much different. Your small town may not have a police department, may not have a 911 call center,
right?
May have a lot of the things you're going to use are on a countywide basis. And I'll tell you what else. Here's another thing. They lobby the state government just like your cities do.
Oh, of course they do.
Hennepin County passed an entire thing on stuff that they demand. I'll tell you what, the solution for the state putting something on the county. The solution for that is not for the county to put something back on the state. I mean, that's just the back and forth, BS that you're just going to see over and over and over. One group dictating to another. Couple of the things Hennepin County wants to do is, this is one of the resolutions they passed, support a comprehensive transportation package that provides new revenue for roads, bridges, and transit. Translation, give us more money and don't tell us what to do with it.
Right.
Isn't that kind of oppose any increase in weight or size limits for commercial vehicles? Well, that's an interesting thing to put in there. Of course, they want to protect county aid. They want to increase everything for health and human services, blah, blah, blah. And they also are demanding, there's a big hubbub, and I remember seeing this on the Water and Soil Resources page about legacy money. Now counties are running around trying to get a piece of that statewide money and, violating, they want to use it for, waste reduction and recycling, which is really not what that legacy money was intended to be used for. Right. But they want a piece of that revenue that's coming in. So it's, it's pretty, they support the usual stuff that you're going to think that a local government's going to support a lot.
Right.
They want money for the Arts Center and bonding. They want a big bonding bill for, of course, Metro Transit, the Lake Street project over there on 35W, things like that. They are demanding. But if you could find this on Hennepin County's website, where they have several pages on taxes and they call it legislative priorities or something like that. They have a federal one too, which again is all about getting money for transportation, getting money for health and human services, things of that nature. But if the county would just take care of their own business, right? Instead of running around trying to get free money from somebody else, I think we'd solve a few problems by doing that.
Yeah, I think so too. So they do all this, and you had mentioned earlier about the clubs they belong to and stuff. Like every city, township, school board, whatever, there's the Association of Minnesota Counties, which it's a lot of the same functions as far as they lobby, they come up with sample legislation.
And then pressure all the counties to pass such legislation or resolutions or whatever, implement policies. And the counties, in turn, pressure the cities to sort of follow suit and do the same thing. I mean, one of the things that but again, I come back to and this is part of where we need what's called a constitutional sheriff, which would be a podcast in itself. Of county wants to pass laws, it's up to the county to enforce them. If they want to pass a ban on e-cigs, they can enforce it. And unfortunately, I think we have too many local governments who are subservient to the counties rather than standing up for, and again, whether that's done for ideological reasons or what, I don't know. But, and we should mention something too. I mean, I want to mention something about the County Transit Improvement Board going away. Right. Because that was a special, counties can enter into an agreement with each other anytime they want to. CTIB was a separate piece of legislation. It's now going away. Of course, the taxes aren't going away.
No.
But so counties can jointly do anything they want to. They can't jointly do what CTIB did, though, which is create their own revenue source.
Right.
And so they don't have the authority to do that unless the legislature makes a special exception to that. So counties can get together, though, and do things jointly. They just can't find a new funding source to do that. So, I mean, counties, is this boring enough? I mean, but like I said, I use Hennepin County as a great example. And I'm sure it's the same over in Ramsey or anywhere else, even up in St. Louis, out where St. Louis at Stearns County.
Yeah.
You've got 5 to 7 people in control of a whole lot of money.
Whole lot of money.
And I mean, Hennepin County, I still marvel at nearly a $2 billion budget. $2 billion. And the truth is 4 people are in control of it.
Right.
Because all you need is 4 votes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is...
Well, really, all you need is 3, but they've got 4 in Hennepin, so...
Well, you got 7.
Oh, in Hennepin, that's right, because it's 7, but a lot of these counties are 5.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say more are 5 than 7
Yeah.
statewide. Every county that you and I have looked up so far has got districts. I have not run into any at-large counties.
No.
And I can't imagine there are any. There may be, but I've probably looked at half of them, and I have not found any at-larges.
Yeah, well, that would be an awful big district. I mean, when you think about it,
especially miles wise.
Right. Well, think about it the way that a city runs, guys. When there's an at-large, or even for a school board, that entire city or school district is their area to canvass and campaign, and they've got to get the top votes from that whole area, whether it's in the top 2 or 3, depending on how many are up. Now, a county, Hennepin is probably, I would argue, the smallest county land-wise. I mean, obviously it's got the most people in it, but land-wise it's probably the smallest. It would still be really hard to cover land-wise, just walking Hennepin County. Oh. Imagine if you had, a bigger
downtown to Rogers.
It's Stearns County or Meeker or Candy Ojai. How would you canvass that whole thing? I mean, it's impossible.
No, the only thing you'd have to direct mail. That's one thing you'd have to do. And you'd have to be everywhere you could possibly be, because knocking on doors and something like that is the most inefficient way to reach people. I think, and that brings up how to run for county office. It's a big job, and it really takes a lot to run for county commission. You think about it like this in Hennepin County, you got 7 county commissioners, you get over 1 million people.
Right.
So that is a lot of people.
It is a lot
to somehow move. I think the best thing to do is your visibility. I mean, I think because of, again, a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with the R or the D. At the same time, you can't count on that either. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can pretty much count on their normal vote.
Yeah.
But if it's nonpartisan, who the heck knows? And they do have primaries, where they narrow it down to 2 people. And then, of course, they have, which is for Minnesota's in August. And then they go on to the general election in November.
Right.
And in researching around here, a lot of these commissioners more of them run unopposed than you'd think.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I found fascinating. Because these are such jobs that are very, very important. And I'm shocked at the amount of open seats, at the amount of unopposed persons running.
I think as far as elected positions go, I mean, it's one that gets overlooked quite a bit because there's not a lot of there's not a lot of press around it, like you do at a state level. at a federal level, and it's not quite close enough that it interacts with you every day like a city council does. Where we still find that people really don't know at a local level sometimes who represents them, what their city council does. Once you remove that by a step further, even more so, I think, and there's a lot of mystery around it.
I think if you walked into a bar and interviewed 50 people, 10 of them would name their county commissioner.
You think it'd be that high?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people know who Mike Opad is. They don't like him, but they know who he is. Jeff Johnson certainly is somebody people would know. And so, I think maybe 10 would know who their county commissioner is. And with the amount of money that they spend, it does kind of amaze me. Also, I should mention this too, county attorneys, which is a big position too.
Yeah.
That's how Amy Klobuchar launched herself.
Yes, it is.
Hennepin County attorney and the sheriff are elected positions. We should make that clear. That's
Absolutely.
all across the state of Minnesota, that a sheriff and a county attorney work in 4-year terms, and that is an elected position every 4 years. I think there's some misconception about county attorney and a sheriff and how they get in there.
Yeah.
You don't have Boss Hogg appointing Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Right.
You have it's a weird because it's a law enforcement position, yet you also have to be a politician. And sometimes I think we get sheriffs that are more politicians than they are police officers. I won't mention names.
Yeah.
And that's the same for all 87 counties. That those two positions. So when you're thinking, you're not just voting for county commissioner. It is county attorney and sheriff as well. And again, those are countywide positions. Those are at-larges. So you want to talk about a big election. That is a big election. You look at a place like Hennepin County to run for sheriff. I mean, you're talking about 1 million people in Hennepin County. So it's big.
It is huge. Yeah. And you think some of these other counties, I mean, they don't have as many people, but just how spread out they are, I mean, that's a lot of room to cover. And I guess when you're looking at a sheriff's election, I mean, that is at large. You do have to cover that. St. Louis County, you're covering that whole county.
No kidding. I mean, and you look at counties that have 30,000 people in it, but they're 80 square miles. It's pretty daunting task to run for something like that. But again, this is another layer of government where we need to get the right people in an office. Whether that's county attorney, whether that's sheriff, whether that's county commissioner. It's a great, it probably is a good second office for somebody to run for, I think. I think if you're in a city council, a county, maybe a natural step up.
Yeah.
If the legislature isn't something that you want to do, or you have somebody there you like or something, but a county commissioner is, I think it's one of the most poorly understood positions anywhere in the state.
I would agree.
You said it's not quite close enough.
Well, I mean, maybe soil and water is worse, but
maybe even for the money that's at stake.
Yeah,
I think it's it's incredible how much money is in their hands. But with a lot of state mandates and stuff, I think their ability to change things is not as great as maybe it would be in a city. So you've got a couple different caveats working for you, and if you know what county you're in, you can go to most places' websites, and we'll give you who the commissioner is that represents you, and you could start from there. Start going. Counties have board meetings, and I think Hennepin County meets almost every day.
Yeah,
and has a board meeting. So,
and not all.
I don't mean board as in BORED. Not that board. BOARD, I mean.
Right. And some of them, like Hennepin County, I mean, they do a lot of things during the day, and it's really hard to get there, and it's not very transparent then because of that. I think some of your other counties don't all do that, and they might be a little bit more accessible as well.
I would say, too, the board meetings are available on Channel 6 on your Comcast.
Yeah.
I don't know they do replay them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, it is kind of like the legislature.
Yeah.
They hold a hearing at 11 a.m. when they know most people can't be there.
Right.
It is, I think it is a difficult thing to access are those hearings. And, again, who's making the agenda, are all kind of mysteries. So,
right.
But these dang counties are as out of control as any other form of government.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
I can promise you.
And with the money that they control, I would argue that they're more out of control because they have more money to throw around.
And defeating one of them is that much harder.
Exactly.
You're not in a ward of 1,000 people. You're in a district of who knows how many.
Right.
So, they're hard to flip, but they're not impossible. And, wherever I'm one, like I said before, that wants to start lower. Mm-hmm. I don't want somebody's first office to run for to be county commissioner. But, it's one of those positions where how much you control is very disproportionate to how the coverage is of it. So, it's one of those arms that is, when was the last time you saw Carol 11 News lead with something that a county was doing?
Maybe the
Twin Stadium, maybe
the smoking ban. Yeah,
maybe. But there isn't much that is available to see. I mean, even your local paper. I mean, I've scoured the Sun Post for stories on Hennepin County, and you don't find very many.
Yeah,
you find very few. And again, that the counties may be more important. I don't want to say more important, but if you live in a city without a police department, for example, a county you may interact with a little bit more than you would here. So but I think it's one of the harder things to get people into.
It is, and that's why we encourage starting at the city level, because you can work.
Boring.
Well, you can work your way into the county level so much easier.
Yeah. Plus, it's boring.
Well, there's that.
I mean, just talking about counties, it's boring.
Yeah.
So, you and I aren't boring, but
no.
Just generally speaking, I mean, counties are just kind of, they're not a sexy job.
No.
You and I've talked about that before, where, it's not a running around calling yourself a county commissioner is not. Oh, really? Well, what do you do? I mean, that's probably the answer half the time.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty it's a job that goes under the radar, but for what they're doing, it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, if that doesn't give you a whole load of stuff about, I mean, you should feel like you know counties a little bit better.
Well, and I will say this: we'll dive into specifics on a future show.
Yeah. This
is again kind of a 30,000-foot view of just explaining what counties do, where they get their money, how many of them are, how they're divided, what they can and can't do, other elected positions in a county, like a sheriff or a county attorney. And in a future show, we'll break down everything just like we've done with other things. But they're just think of them as another municipal. I mean, there's probably 500-600 county commissioners in the entire state of Minnesota. With 87 counties. So I mean, it's very small compared to school boards or cities or townships. How many of those are?
Absolutely, yeah. There's
and it gets the least amount of coverage.
Right.
So hopefully that didn't bore you to death.
Well, let's hope not. Hopefully you're still with us. Hello? So yeah, that's a great introduction, I think, and we want to make sure that we continue to bring you the best in news and theory, and we're just going to keep going because that's what we've committed to doing. If you have stories, there are things that you want to talk about, and you want to hear talked about, let us know. You want to run for something or whatever. Email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to talk about it, to let people know what's going on in your city. Also, make sure you check out our blogs and pass them on at commsolutionsmn.com, and we will keep marching forward into next week. We're going to have another good show for you at that time. For tonight, get some dang sleep. That's what we're planning to do. Hopefully, you guys are resting better than us. So, we love you, Minnesota. Thank you so much. And let's go out there and get them, huh? Have a great week.